Hi everybody, it's Jim Ostrowski with the Liberty Moving Podcast. Kind of committed to making the background of the podcast a little interesting visually. I tried to actually do this with the Lake Erie in the background, where the Niagara River, which is actually a straight, how smart I am, meets Lake Erie, and the Buffalo River's actually nearby too. So it's really Buffalo has one of the best inland waterfronts in the country, but since the political class in Buffalo is so evil, stupid, and lazy, nobody really knows about it. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in the least free state of New York, but as long as I'm here, try to take advantage of some of the landscape. It's really a beautiful city. If you got rid of the, I used to joking, there's nothing wrong with Buffalo that couldn't be fixed by running the top 50 people out of town in some very peaceful manner, maybe bribing them and paying them never to return. But just before I get into it, and this is going to be fairly quick because I'm busy today, and I know there's a little bit of wind, but those are the sacrifices you have to make so that you don't see the inside of my basement, or some of these. I love all the podcasters, but you get so tired of seeing some of the backgrounds. So just real quick before I start getting into the merits, the large building, which is I don't know, it's to my left as I look at the camera. Who knows? That's actually a failed urban renewal project that almost went belly up, and they almost tore it down. But they got some rich guy from out of town. This is going to be his vanity project. So I wish him well. Never should have been built, but it's just another failure, an example of the failure of the so-called Great Society, brought to us by that evil bastard LBJ. How many people did he kill in Vietnam? I don't know, 1 million. Who's counting? One man's death is a tragedy. A million deaths is a statistic. So the other, on my right, you can see just the top of the City Hall, which is a beautiful Art Deco building built in the heyday of Buffalo, when Buffalo is one of the leading cities, really in the world. And that's most famous because Antifa tried to burn it down, or Black Lives Matter, or whoever did it. I don't know. But during the riots, somebody tried to burn it down. I can't really say who they were affiliated with, so I take all that back. Don't sue me. So one of the things I wanted to report on, now that I'm into the actual podcast and not just bloviating about myself and what I've done for the last 41 years, is I want to report on things that the mainstream media is missing, because there's no actual journalism in America. So 3 days ago, Trump came out with this proposal to temporarily suspend the employee's share of the payroll tax, and I immediately realized that this is like a brilliant political move, and everybody seems to have sort of missed it on the left, right, center. Although you see some pushback by the Democrats. I think their consultants probably told them, Trump might have just won the election here with this maneuver. So, and they're beginning to push back. So I just wanted to talk about that today. The negotiations broke down, and what Biden's going to learn through this is that it's tough to beat an incumbent. I ran against an incumbent myself when I was a kid, and I almost beat the guy, but he had the whole state machine working against me. I spent like $4,000, and he had a whole army, and he had also sent out like 6 mailings to the district, and that was pretty much the margin of victory. So it's tough to beat an incumbent. Trump's in charge of the machinery of the federal government. He's directing the Treasury not to collect this money, and it's 7.65% of your gross. And I don't know how many people are employed. There's like 150 million Americans. It applies to people under 100,000, but that's like 90%. So basically, it's not being reported by the media because, well, the media is basically an infomercial for the Democratic National Committee. So Trump just, if he can pull this off, he just gave 135 million Americans a raise. Getting windy. Unilaterally. And so I think if he could pull this off, and this is from September 1st on through the end of the year. So if he can pull this off, he just gave 135 million Americans, who most of whom vote, a pay raise, which is absolutely an amazing thing. So politically, it's a brilliant political move, and again, that's why I'm reporting it here. So let's talk about some of the countermeasures. If they go to court, I don't think that's actually going to hurt Trump at all, because what is that? I mean, Trump gave people, by the time they get a decision, people are going to have gotten a pay raise, and only one person's responsible, and nobody's going to be able to deny that, and it's Trump. So then you puts the Democrats in a position of going to court to take away, in a very difficult economy, take away a significant pay raise, and this is a lot of money. You know, this is normally people. Not to digress too much, but I'm working on a project concerning this whole issue, so I've thought about it a lot. In my opinion, I think workers basically discount money that's withheld. I don't think they think it's real money, because it's really, it's the take-home pay, right? So, and they're sort of encouraged to think that way by the whole withholding system. So they just sort of write that money off. But now the money's going to be in there, if this works out the way Trump's executive order intends it. That money's actually going to be in their pocket. Now you're going to get an extra $100, let's say $100 a week, or every 2 weeks. And then the Democrats are going to be in the position of suing to take that money away from their own people and many other people, and independents and working class. I mean, Trump's base obviously is white working class people. But obviously a lot of Democrats are employed too. Many of them work for the government, but they still get that. They're still going to get that raise. So what else can they do? Going to court's going to be a political loser. So I think the battle's going to be fought at the level of the large payroll companies like ADP. I don't know if it's. I might be screwing that up with the security company, but the largest company has some initials that begin with an A, and then there's Paychex and so on. And then the large corporations, which seem to be totally leaning Democratic these days. So they're going to try to argue that, well, this isn't a permanent tax forgiveness, so we're just going to hang on to the money, and because we might have to pay it later. And I don't think that's going to fly, because I think that the law firms that do class action suits are going to immediately go in and file a class action suit saying, hey, that's not your money. The federal government is no longer taking that money till the end of the year, and that's not your money. And I think you're going to have a lot of individual lawyers also filing suit. You're going to have a certain number of employees are themselves lawyers, and they could easily go to court. They could go to small claims court, for $5 or whatever, file a claim against their company. And then the other wrinkle is that there could possibly be criminal liability. Like in New York State, it's actually illegal not to pay money that's owed to workers. And so you might end up getting a criminal charge. So there's going to be the whole Democratic, mainstream media apparatus is going to be trying to convince these companies, you can't withhold, you can't give that money to them. You have to hang on to that. So I don't think that maneuver is going to be successful. But in any event, even if they are successful, Trump's going to spin that and say, look, I tried to give you a pay cut, but this whole deep state, deep corporation, big corporations, big law firms, lower court judges, they're conspiring against you, and it's still going to be a win. And so then ultimately, okay, is this going to be permanent? Well, if Trump loses, well, Trump doesn't care. He's back to, Mar-a-Lago. If he wins, he's going to have so much political clout that he's going to be able to push this through as a permanent cut for that 4-month period, which again is a substantial amount of money. And once again, the Democrats will be in the position, the very difficult position. I'm going to try to wrap it up in a minute or two. A very difficult position of trying to collect that money, and there's really only two ways to do it. One would be a nightmare, and the other one would be hell. The nightmare would be trying to just, ask 135 million people, hey, we need that money back. Send them all sorts of nasty IRS notices, all brought to you by the Democratic Party. It's not going to happen. And then the other one would be to just, double your withholdings for the next, year or so. So that's going to be very politically unpalatable. So bottom line, and everybody pretty much has missed this, except the Liberty Moving podcast. And so I wanted to bring this to your attention. I think that if Trump pulls this off, he may have in fact clinched the election. He's been creeping up in the polls anyway. I'm on record that from March before COVID and also reiterated in early July when he was not doing well in the polls or anywhere else, and really not doing well. I'm on record calling Trump again to win, but I think this would actually pretty much clinch it. And this is a story that's pretty much been missed by everybody. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, and that kind of highlights the whole point of this podcast. There's lots of great podcasts on there. I'm not really going to trash other podcasters. I may disagree with. I'm going to try to keep things not impersonal, and I may take issue with some of the things that people are arguing out there, but I'm not going to go to war with any particular podcasters. I like a lot of them, even the ones that I disagree with. I kind of enjoy listening to, but nobody in Podcastville brings together like close to 50 years experience in politics, 37 years as a lawyer doing heavy duty constitutional in the trenches work, like murder trials. So I'll talk about George Floyd at some point, but when I talk about George Floyd, I've actually been there in the trenches. And I've tried 3 homicide cases in my career, and I got an acquittal on the top charge in all 3 cases. So I'm not slinging a lot of bullshit when I talk about the law. Any legal issue that comes up in the mainstream media, I laugh at these people when I'm watching it, in my living room, and say, you have no clue what you're talking about when it comes to law. So what I bring to the table isn't just another pretty face or beautiful studio or great microphones and sound systems, but what I bring to the table is I've got a unique skill set that frankly nobody else out there has. And again, I'm not trashing anybody. There's people who have a unique skill set that I don't have, like Tom Woods, for example. I don't have a PhD in history. I love his show. So I'm not trashing anybody. I'm just saying I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers here. So why should you subscribe, and why should you put me on notifications and listen and pump up the show? Because you're going to hear things here that you're not going to hear anywhere else. So over and out. From downtown Buffalo, the waterfront, Jim Ostrowski with the Liberty Moving podcast, and you should watch because American journalism is dead.